and then we can prioritize together. So there's
We go through Dover Beach.
Dover Beach, no problem.
The
Yep.
Poplars one, I think.
Poplars, got it.
And then let me just see. Oh, I just want to ask about Secret. So My Secret. I can't remember exactly what it was about. Was it about she being pregnant or something like that?
There were the issue around teaching My Secret is that there are multiple interpretations. So you could be looking at someone who's just having fun with words and poetry and who's actually being coy and she doesn't really have a secret. Like the secret is the fact that she doesn't have one.
Oh,
or
yeah,
you could be
that's what she doesn't want to tell anyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you could be talking about a woman who is pregnant and so she keeps the secret to herself, especially in winter where she can wrap herself up and no one can see. Or it can be a secret, as in a secret affair with a lover that she doesn't want to tell anyone about because that person is maybe an authority somewhere or someone that she can't trust anyone knowing or finding out about they trust their love affair. So you've got a couple of options and you can justify any of them. You choose which one.
And so what exactly does the winter represent? Like, does that just
represent
like the bad side, or what does it represent?
It can be a difficult time in her life, something that she's got to go through, which is difficult and trying because it's not the spring of her life. So she might also be older. It might be a time where the truth is hidden underneath snow and cold, and that'll only come through in spring later on when the season changes. So in other words, when it's the right time to reveal the secret, it will reveal itself. It could also be something difficult that she must go through. And think about what happens in winter. In winter, you're responsible for your own warmth. She's got to stay covered. She's got to stay closed. So it's almost a lot easier to keep the secret in winter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay. All right. Dover Beach. Dover Beach. Yeah, it's always easier for me to teach from a historical perspective. I mean, if you look at when it was written in a response to the Industrial Revolution. And it's the story of a man.
Just repeat that, please.
In a response to the Industrial Revolution.
Okay.
And this tells the story of a man and his wife who go on honeymoon to Dover. You know, in Britain, that part of the strait between the southeasternmost tip of England and France. It's a very short little distance.
Okay.
And he goes on honeymoon with her to this part of England, where the White Cliffs of Dover they can be seen from France, and you can see Calais from the White Cliffs of Dover. So it's almost like he's looking over this channel of water. And he's there with his wife on their honeymoon, and it's quite sad. I mean, the poor woman is probably waiting for the husband, and there he is staring out the window, very melancholy, listening to the sea come in and the ebb and flow of the tide, and it reminds him of all the sadness in the world and the fact that all the problems with the world have been around forever. They've been around since the Greek times. Like he talks about the Aegean Sea, the Mediterranean, and how the problems that were around then are still floating on the waves today, and they keep coming in on the shores and going away, and coming in on the shores and going away. And then he talks about how faith used to hold the world together like a belt. He talks about faith was like a girdle around the world was filled. That faith was what held us all together, because a girdle is like a belt. And he's saying it's not like that anymore. It's receding from the shore, so it's pulling back. So the godliness, the religion, the spirituality is pulling back, and everyone is putting their faith in other things. And then he ends the poem in the last stanza by talking about how, in reality, like all we have in the world is love. All we have is each other. And so he turns to his wife and he says, "Let us be true to one another, because in this world there is no hope for pain. There is no certitude. We are here as on a darkening plain," he says, where ignorant armies clash by night. The things here are scary and sad and difficult, and all we have to rely on is love. So it's quite sweet. But yeah, I feel sorry for the wife. Okay, does that story make sense?
Excuse me?
I said, does that story make sense?
Yeah.
Can you see its sections? Have you got the poem out in front of you?
Yeah, I do.
Cool, and you can see what I mean about the sections in front of you.
Yeah.
It's got 3 very distinct sections. he starts there, the sea is calm tonight, the tide is full, and then that part I was telling you about when he thinks about historically the sadness, he says Sophocles long ago heard it from the Aegean, and then he talks about the sea of faith, and then he ends off, our love, let us be true to one another.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, next, you wanted to focus on Bindi Poplars.
Yes, please.
Okay, Bindi Poplars is also a nice poem to talk about from a romantic perspective. When I talk about like romantic poetry, do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Not really.
Okay, so romantic poets focused on the beauty of nature and the fact that in nature we can grow calm and we can hear our innermost spirit talking, and in so doing we commune with God, we grow closer to God in a world where at that time in history people were think about what was happening. Like Darwin had just come back from his explorations, and he was telling people that we were all descended from apes, which made them feel like we're made in the image of God. So if now we're made in the image of apes, then there is no God. And people started turning away from the church, and people started making money through factories, and people big companies started taking out big tracts of land, especially in Europe, for coal mining and for industry, which was the way forward. And here you have these people, the few poets who said that that's what's killing the world. What we need to do is focus on what is natural and what is God-given, and on good morals and values. And they were our romantics. And so in Bindi Poplars, we see Hopkins do exactly that, because he talks about this clearing of trees, which he gets to one day, and they've been chopped down, and how upset he is about the fact that they aren't there anymore. If you're looking at the poem in front of you, can you see that the subheading is felled 1879?
Yeah.
Okay, so when trees are felled, it means they're chopped down.
Yeah.
So he got there to this group of poplars, and all of a sudden they weren't there anymore. They'd been chopped out. And this is what upsets him so much. And so he spends the poem talking about how beautiful they were. He talks about them, deer, he says, my aspens deer, whose airy cages, so their cages, he's talking about think about like how a kid draws a tree. It's like a little line, and then on top of that, you might have like what we would say looks like a flag. So he's saying they were airy cages, where birds would come and sit, and the wind would move through the trees, and the sun would leap, and all of a sudden that's all gone. They felled. And he spends the whole poem talking about that. And you'll see he tries to give us like an onomatopoeic experience of what it must have been like for the chopping down of these trees. Every time he uses it in line 3, fell, all fell, not spared, not one, so that kind of repetition. Look at line 11 when he says, oh, if we but knew what we do when we delve or hew. The rhythm of those lines is like chopping down the trees. So he tries to really focus on that. And then there's a very scary 2 lines where he says, go to line 14 and 15, where he says, since country is so tender to touch her, being so slender, that like this sleek and seeing ball, but a prick will make no eye at all. He's talking about eyes. He's talking about how nature is so fragile, that for us to understand the fragility of nature, we must imagine how it would feel to have someone take a needle and prick our eyeball. Because it doesn't take much to make you blind. And similarly, it doesn't take much for man to hurt nature very, very deeply. And he says in lines 16 and 17, where we mean to mend her, we end her. There's even when we try to, every time we meddle with nature, even when we're trying to do something good, we end up ruining it in some way. Okay. Any questions?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. All right, so those are your 3. Joshy, what do you want to go over?
I don't have any specifics really. I was just gonna listen to everyone else's.
Everybody. Well, let's see what Jen has had to say yet. The poor girl. Where is she?
Yeah, no, just WhatsApp, but I don't know if she's struggling to get on or.
Just tell her if she's got any questions, she must ask them now, because then we can actually cover them, whether she can be part of the conversation or not. At least she can get her feedback. So
yeah. She wanted to go through the language. Yeah. Excuse me?
Yeah, she did.
Right.
So,
What
well,
language?
well, yeah, she didn't say. She just said the language and editing section of the paper. So, I mean, all I can say about that is that you really need to make sure that you've gone through all of your notes. The Vera Lutrin book is fantastic when it comes to grammar and editing. It really,
The one that's red and yellow.
yes.
Okay.
I'm looking for some notes that I can refer you to right now, and you can do it as an exercise. Here we go. Everybody can- wow,
Excuse me, ma'am. Is there like specific do's and don'ts when it comes to like a summary?
Yeah, definitely,
Can we
absolutely.
go through those?
Yeah, of course. Okay. Well, I mean, off the top of my head, look, just follow the instructions very carefully because the instructions of the summary are going to give you an angle through which they want you to use the information. You know, so they'll give you a text, and then they'll give you a scenario. They'll say, imagine you are a teacher preparing this material that you've just read for your history class the next day. Summarize the body of your lesson to the class about Nazi rule in Germany. And then that's your angle. So you must only summarize information from the text that you would use if you were teaching about Nazi Germany. So you've got to read the context carefully. That's important. And then read the little instructions they give you because a summary they always give you some pointers. They say things like you will write a paragraph summary and use X number of words, provide a word count, don't copy and paste, that kind of thing. But always remember to add a title. And remember that you must follow the instructions carefully, but essentially you are still trying to craft a good paragraph. And a good paragraph has always got a topic sentence which leads and is the umbrella for what the paragraph is about, relevant information, and then a concluding line that shows us, oh, this has come to an end. Because remember, you're only writing one paragraph. So that paragraph must hinge together as a well-written piece on its own. And then little things like, it's a summary, so you want global information. You're not going to present details, so no statistics. You traditionally won't use names of people.
The overall.
Yeah.
Just condense it.
That's right. So when they say like 29% of people, blah 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 blah, you won't say 29. You'll say maybe what?
A third.
A third. There we go. Or you won't say 78%. You'll say most. Or you know what I mean? You'll round it up. You stand back from the information and give us a broad understanding of what it is they're getting at. And remember that traditionally these are always academic in style. So no contractions, no slang, no colloquialisms, no poor punctuation, anything like that. I think the process that you should be following when you're doing your summary goes something like follows. And I understand that to do it step by step by step can take very long, but if you've practiced it, then a lot of the steps happen in your head. But essentially, you should be reading the instructions, reading the information, going back to the information and highlighting the information, like the actual, and like analyzing the stuff that you're now going to put into the summary. Then you need to jot that down and you need to put it into your own words. Then you need to order the information so that your paragraph is not just a list of sentences that could actually all just be points. They need to be connected, and you connect them with connectors like although, however, but, because, in addition, furthermore, and you make sense of the information so that in one sentence you could actually condense 2 or 3 points even. And then you make sure, once you've done that, that you have an introductory sentence which tells us what this paragraph is about, and that you round off nicely.
Okay. Thanks a lot. There's nothing like a specific order, like if something comes out of the first paragraph, you have to have it like in the first sentence or something like that.
No, that's why it's so important to read the instruction that they give you. You know, they will tell you to pretend that you are someone, or that you are an editor, or that you are a teacher, and then you must only attack the information from that angle. Okay. Don't just summarize the whole piece.
Okay, thanks a lot. Maybe.
Alright. Grammar and editing.
For the
Yeah?
unseen poetry, ma'am, how can we study for that?
You need to pick up your clusters and you need to read. Like that's what you must do tonight before you go to bed. You must either read poetry or you must read some newspaper articles or something that you need to read. If you haven't yet attempted to study unseen poetry, then choose 5 random poems from your clusters and try and interpret them, like what's going on here, what is the meaning here, what's the poet trying to say, and then try and make connections between them. Even though you don't know them, you haven't studied them, try and see what they have in common, whether it is the period in which they were written, the theme that they're covering, the structure, the format, the rhyme scheme, the diction, the language, the emotion, the moods, anything. Try and look for common ground. And if you have the time, just allow yourself to think about which poems that you know very well because you have studied them, you could possibly relate to any of these. It's about seeing connections between things and being able to interpret and make meaning and justify. So don't forget to use the PEE method every time in the poetry questions. When you make a point, give an example from the text to substantiate your answer and then explain yourself fully. You can't write enough.
Okay, thanks, sir.
I'm just looking at some old notes from grade 11 on grammar and editing. So if I go through, some of the notes on listing the different kinds of things you must look out for in grammar and editing, we're talking about punctuation, like the apostrophe. Are you happy with using the apostrophe?
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. The idea of redundancy, does that ring a bell?
Yeah, what's redundancy again?
When you say the same thing twice, like buy this from Edgar's and you'll get a free gift. Well, I hope it's free. It's a gift, right?
No, free gift, yeah.
Backwards, that kind of thing. Malapropisms.
Yeah.
So using the wrong word by mistake. Hanging participles. In other words, not connecting your verb form to a specific subject, and that can lead to ambiguity. Double negatives, like don't you not do it. Using the correct degrees of comparison, making sure that when a sentence starts with using a particular pronoun, that continues throughout. For one note. Remember that redundancy and tautology are the same thing.
Yeah.
Concord, making sure that you have agreement between your subject and your verbs. So, no jean pants and no I are going to the shop. Conjunctions, making sure that you use conjunctions correctly. For example, that you use the right, you're placing the right conjunction in the right position, whether it's coordinating or subordinating, and that you're not just missing out the conjunction and adding a comma instead, because that's wrong.
Yeah.
Contractions, never ending a sentence on a preposition, making sure or being able to recognize when sentences are incomplete, because then they're missing a finite verb. There we go. And I think that covers about it.
Is that like on a piece of paper, or is it on your computer, man?
It's on my PC. It's on an old note from grade 11.
Send it to me if possible or not.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's do you remember doing the exercise? It's from grade 11.
Yeah, I can remember the page, but I don't know where it is. It's somewhere in my room, and that could take a while to find.
Should you want a copy? If I do your email, I'm going to send it to the one that I'm going to send you the email that I used tonight, yeah?
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks a lot.
Could you send it also to me, ma'am, as well?
Yeah, sure.
Jenna hasn't got back to me, sorry.
Well, hopefully she's listening.
Yeah.
Here, side with the areas listed on the first page. Okay, I just want to make sure I've got the answers attached. Yeah, and the answers are at the bottom.
Okay, thanks a lot, man.
Thank
Then
you.
I just have like 2 more questions. For cartoon and advertising,
Yes.
is that just analyzing the cartoons and the advertising, telling like or saying why it's good and why it's bad and all of that, or what exactly is it?
Well, I mean, there's a range of questions they can ask when it comes to visual literacy. You must know that it could be anything from, it could be any kind of image from a campaign to an awareness campaign to an actual advertisement. It could be a billboard, it could be anything. It could be a Zapiro cartoon, it could be a Waterston cartoon, you know, with Calvin and Hobbes, it could be a Madam and Eve. It's anything where an image is used to communicate meaning. They can ask you anything, but they won't ask you information that you must draw from outside of the cartoon or from outside of the image. The answer is you're staring at it. The answer is always in front of you. We can't ask you to bring information from outside of this visual literacy. What you must look out for and be very careful of in those answers, that often those questions are 2 marks or 4 marks. And in those questions, there will be a tag at the end that says, they'll ask the question, then they'll say, refer to both the visual and the text in your answer, or refer to both the visual text and the copy in your answer, or they'll tell you what they want you to focus on. And if you don't focus on both, then if it's 2 marks, you can only get 1 mark, and if it's 4 marks, you can only get 2 marks.
Okay.
So really pay attention to the structure of the question and what the question is asking you to focus on.
Make sure to take an example from the visual and the text.
Always, exactly, yeah. And pay attention to the detail of the visuals. You know, students often miss, like, I'll never forget 2-3 years ago. Students missed out on 2 marks because they didn't notice that there was a cloud in the cartoon. You know, that kind of thing.
Yes, they overlooked the obvious.
Yeah, so pay attention to the actual visual. Just take a minute or 2 and look at the picture and just say, what am I looking at here? Like, what's going on? Don't rush to the question, because oftentimes the question can put you in a certain frame of mind about the visual. Rather, just first look at the visual and go, do I understand what's going on here? Remember, of course, also that when you're dealing with cartoons a lot, you need to revise humor. So you need to go and revise from the textbook and from notes and things like that, and old question papers and that you guys were presented with as exercises, the different kinds of humor. You know, is this irony? How does irony function? Is it bathos? Is it a pun? What's funny about this?
Sorry to interrupt you, but can you just quickly tell me the 3 types of irony again? It's situational, or what's the next 3, if I remember correctly?
Situational and dramatic. No, it's the 3rd one, if you look for a note on irony.
Well, I think there's 3, I'm not too sure, I'm guessing.
No, I've got irony listed separately with parody, satire, sarcasm, innuendo, and that kind of thing. So for irony, I would imagine you're talking about situational irony, so where something is funny because of the situation in which one finds oneself, and that takes explanation, or a visual, a picture of some kind, and dramatic irony, which is where the audience knows more than one of the characters does. So you know what's about to happen, but the character you're watching or listening to appears to not know. And that's dramatic irony. Then make sure you understand a satire, that you're able to, that you can identify it, that you understand sarcastic tone, all of those things when it comes to a pun, that you're able to pick that out. What else?
Yeah, I just, the last thing I want to ask is the structure of the poems. Is that, so we just have to know, like, what type of structure is used, like the rhyme scheme and all of that. And what type of poem is it? Like if it's a sonnet and all of that.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Okay, so that's all we know when it comes to like the structure of the poem.
You need to be able to recognize a poem for its based on its structure, particularly if like the older poems. And these are, I mean, that's your textbook this year is fantastic. You know, they tell you like this is a Petrarchan sonnet, why 8+6. This is an Elizabethan sonnet, why 3 quatrains, how to recognize a poem if it's an elegy or a poem of mourning. And I mean, it's all in the words as well of the titles of the poems, like, you know, your odes to something is an ode. What is an ode? A poem, yes, with a particular rhyme scheme, but more importantly, that focuses on praising, that wants to unpack something to the beauty of what it is, that kind of thing. So know that, and you know what you're talking about when you said, so it's the structure, it's the rhyme scheme, it's the rhythm, it's everything that, all the components that the poet must deliberately choose so that the poem looks and sounds a particular way.
Okay. Yeah, thanks a lot, man.
Towards those kind of things. It's gonna be fun, just relax. English is always fun.
Okay, I don't really have any other questions, so I don't know if Josh has anything.
Josh, how you doing? You alright?
No, I'm good. I'm taking a lot in. So no, I don't really have any questions.
Okay, cool. Okay, gents, that's fantastic. I'm going to be around for the next half an hour at least, and I'll have my phone with me if you want to drop me a mail because you forgot to ask something. I'll post this online for anyone else who wants to be able to download it and listen before bed. But good luck for tomorrow. It's going to be fab. And let me know what you want to revise for paper 2 and spread the word. Last year when I did this with Matrix, I had a full house for 2 hours, and it was a lot of fun, and students learned so much from each other. So if you know that people are capable of getting online and being part of this, spread the word. It's fun. It's a nice way to revise.
Okay.
Yeah, I found it helps a lot.
Have a good night.
Yeah, thanks for you. Bye.
Bye.